Welcome to the 1% Doctor Podcast. What separates the good from the great, the standard from the extraordinary? It's mindset, it's execution, and it's the relentless pursuit of growth. I'm Adam Lamb. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the 1% Doctor Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Lamb. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Paul Reed. He's I would say a strong man. You just look at him. He's going to share his background. He's like a manly guy. He leads men. He's been a doc for years and helping people through so many different things. But today, I want to dive in and hear it from you directly, Paul. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely,
and, give the audience a little background. Like, what got you into medicine? What are you passionate about? Let's hear it.
Yeah, man. So, being a chiropractor, I say a lot of chiropractors had an experience with chiropractic to drive them to become a chiropractor. And that's what happened to me. I was, an avid athlete, 8th grade, got injured wrestling. I was a bigger kid. So I was always wrestled up on my, weight class, bigger, older kids, and got injured. Dad took me to the chiro and I had quote unquote that chiropractic experience and it lit me on fire to want to pursue that as a career when my athletic career finished. And man, yeah, unlike a lot of young adults, I held my line, knew that's what I wanted to do. And here I am. That was when I was 13. I'm almost 54. So it was a long time ago. And yeah. So that was kind of my experience and what drew me into the profession.
How long did you wrestle for? Did you go into college or anything?
I actually played football in college. Yeah. So I wrestled and played football and I was blessed enough to play at Washington State when it was a Pac-10 way back in the day. So yeah, I was got a scholarship to go over there and play football in the early 90s. Bledsoe area. We're the same class. Drew and I were the same class.
Oh, that's neat. That's awesome. What position did you play?
Another long story, bro. I don't know if we have time for that, but I got my scholarship as a linebacker. Tore my ACL my senior year of high school. I actually only played in 2.5 games. They still honored their commitment to me. And so I got over there, showed up as a linebacker, transitioned to DN the end of my first year. And then the lost a step, right? I lost a little bit of step.
Mm-hmm.
And anyhow, so I came back in the next fall, my second year, and we'd had 4 offensive linemen that had gotten suspended. And Coach Price called me into the office and was like, yo, not ideal, but I think you have an opportunity on the field and travel as a redshirt freshman. I'm like, sign me up. I'm here to play football. I'm not here to sit on the bench. And yeah, man. So I found a need and filled it, and it served me well.
That's awesome.
So I left as a center. So yeah. Showed up as a linebacker, left as a center.
That's awesome. Hey, but whatever you went there to play football, like you said, yep. Right? So sometimes the cards we're dealt aren't exactly what we were looking
never for. Are, right, brother? They never are what we expect. Yeah.
And so, but how we choose to pivot and receive what is in front of us, what is the blessing, and go.
Yeah.
Right? So that's awesome. And so after college, did you go right into chiropractic school?
Straight. I skipped my last semester I forfeited my last semester of scholarship. And so we played in the Alamo Bowl against Baylor on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, got back to school that next day. And then I started chiro school like the next Monday. So I forfeited literally 3 to 5 days off and jumped right in.
So that decision seems like so solid. Were you studying ahead of time? Like, were you was there no doubt? Like, was it like going?
No doubt.
I'm going to go play football and then I'm going to go be a chiropractor.
Yep. That was, from the get go, I was going to leverage my athleticism to get my scholarship paid for, to get school paid for, and then transition right into chiro school. Yeah. Maybe skipping that last semester, forfeiting that last semester wasn't ideal, but I was ready. We were married at the time and we were both ready to get out of Pullman and start the next chapter of our lives. So yeah, we just went for it.
That's cool. I love that. And so did you start your own practice or how did that work? Tell me.
We did. My wife and I, yeah, she was working and I graduated, hired, I was blessed to be around some successful people and success leaves clues, right? So I hired my first coach / mentor 6 months before I opened my practice and so I graduated, hired him, started working with him to get, move from crawling to barely walking to open a business and open that first practice and I just took off from there.
Yeah, I love that. I think not enough people value getting a coach early, or they think like they'll need it then or later, but like you did it early, you tell me, but I think it probably comes from your relationship with coaches throughout your athletic side, right? Like when we look at all these great athletes that society worships, they all have a coach,
Yeah.
right? Not
100.
only just like the head football coach, they may have a strength coach, they may have some other coach,
Nutrition coach, mobility coach, all of it. Yeah. 100.
you think of guys like Michael Jordan with like Tim Grover, right? It's like somebody who just really helped him powerhouse into his career behind the scenes, right? No one knew
Yeah.
it. It wasn't,
Nope. Yeah.
so there's a lot of that. I love that. So I think too often people think of getting a coach to get them out of something versus getting a coach to help collapse time and create
Absolutely.
speed to go where they want to go. Right. And I love that you also said like success leaves clues. And like that to me is a profound statement, just, from the way I look at things of like finding somebody who's already done something well. Like you can watch some of that stuff. Right. And I think there's often we can at least pay attention to people who've done it well.
Yeah.
And the second step is like diving in and actually hiring somebody and like, hey man, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm hungry. I'm driven. I'll run through walls if you tell me to do
Yep.
it. And folks like you that make that decision early get success early. Typically, there's a learning curve to all these things, but that's awesome. So you got a coach.
It definitely collapses time, like you said. I mean, it definitely, with coaches have paid the dummy tax. I mean, every mentor has learned the hard way. And so they should be able to help you shorten that learning curve to accelerate your success.
I was just gonna say, one of the big things that people hire me for today is I started a telemedicine company in 2012, right? So
Yeah.
I've failed every single way possible to the point where in like 2011, Tony Robbins was like, hey, look, I know you know how to do this. I know you do it well. I'll give you equity in my company Life Force if you come on board, which was like a dream come true.
Yeah, right.
But it's like like for me, a guy who I looked up to, most of my life, I was like, this guy who I would consider like the coach of all coaches is asking me to
For
come help
advice.
guide him and his team. I was like, whoa, like, wow, what's possible? But it's just a testament to like, if you decide to, work towards excellence a long time, right? I was 10 years. Yeah. That's right. When people are like, man, that must be cool. Must be lucky. I'm like, well, there's 10 years of like kicking butt, taking names, learning, failing, doing everything I can to help as many people as I possibly can and building my own personal brand and reputation, right? And having the results too, to get that opportunity, which now has grown into, all kinds of other opportunities. But that's the part is people will pay for that shortcut. And I think a lot of people, especially doctors, may not realize that there's a coach within them too, because you coach, right?
Yep.
So there's a coach within them that's like, I've seen guys come out of, like early doctors. A buddy of mine started a coaching thing to help med students get through medical school. Like he had a program to help pass the MCAT. He had a program of how to get hired, all these different programs that, these younger generation, I think, is seeing more value in it of like, hey, you know what? I'm going to pay this $1,000 to learn all the things I don't even know I need to know so that I can land way further in a short amount of time.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, those that don't, I think it's just a bit of ego, like fear of that person seeing a little bit of weakness in you, which is okay. Like we all have them, and it's your ability to check the ego, acknowledge that you do have a weakness, because we all have them, and then work on that weakness to, again, accelerate you to that other side.
You're right. I think it's fear of exposure. So like many people struggle to raise their hand to ask a question, right? I'm the person, like if I'm in a learning environment, I'm the annoying guy in class that's like
all the time.
I want to know about that.
Tell Adam to put his hand down.
Yeah, right. Because otherwise, like I need to be engaged to be engaged, right? So I can't just sit there and as a student, I ask a lot of questions, but I think asking a lot of questions, it's a sign of humility, but it's also a sign of hunger, right?
Yep.
Like I want to know, I want to learn, I want to make sure I'm super clear on this thing, especially if I'm paying for it. I mean, I love that the folks I coach, like when they don't have questions, I'm like, dude,
there's a problem. Yeah.
What is going on? What are you holding back? You have to have questions, right?
100%.
So tell me a little bit about the chiropractic career. Let's talk about, how that started and the evolution.
Yeah. I again, blessed to have great people in my corner, and our primary practice grew and grew and grew, and brought on my second doc and grew, and limitations of time and matter. You can only serve so many people in a certain amount of time. And so then, 10 years into my career, I'm like, hey, let's, got a little God nudge. Let's open up a second location. And so then we, did a second location and let that settle and mull around for 18 months, 2 years, and then did 3, 4, and 5 in pretty short order, just again, out of purely out of service, find a need, fill it. And I felt like we delivered and offered the best care in the community. And so I wanted to saturate that community with that messaging. And so we expanded rapidly and did really well I'm 28 years in. We scaled those, and then I sold in the end of 2019 to a group and helped them expand across a couple of different states. But so I, again, created a systems and process that enabled me to pull back and manage and be, quote unquote, become and develop the CEO mindset and habits, and then, encourage others to grow and push themselves to expand.
What I love about that, and I pay attention to these things. And so I want the listeners to, that's why I'm going to reiterate. So the first practice you had for 10 years, right? 10 years.
Yep.
And then you had the God nudge to open a second one, right? And then after about 18 months, you did what? 3, 4, 5, how many did you do?
Yeah. With three more within a year to 18 months ish.
Right. So there's that part, and we could argue that, hey, did it take you 10 years to get good enough to do it? Or did it take you 10 years to have the courage? Like what are some, will we break down some, right. And maybe it's the maturity. Cause I think of even with my first business, we launched in 2012, I look back at 2017, I brought my first investor on board to help me just mature the business. Right. I was just scrappy, man, I'm just going to drive more revenue and not worry about, P&L, who cares? Who cares?
I didn't money.
There wasn't, we were a small team, and there wasn't systems and processes. There wasn't SOPs in place.
Yeah.
None of these things existed. And then over the course of a couple of years, I got mature in doing it, where I was resistant, right? I hated it. I was too busy. And then I started seeing hey, look, if you want to sell this one day, and I sold my telemedicine company in 2013, 2023, I'm sorry. If you want to sell this one day, you're going to be able to have to hand it over, right? And when I sold my company in the summer of 2023, we closed in 45 days, right? It was here's what I want. Sounds good. Letter of intent, closed in 45
Boom, done.
days. It was August 1st to September 15th or something. But it would have never happened had I not taken the time to pivot from production to processes, right?
Yeah.
Building systems and processes.
Super important.
How long do you think it took you in that 10 years of adjusting to really understand the value in needing to do that?
Yeah, I'd probably constantly refining it throughout that entire time. If I'm real, because it's different when it was just me, and then I added another doctor to the formula, and then finding your mix of that, and then bringing on another doc to train them before you plug them into another clinic. And so I would say it was probably throughout that entire time. And I would say, it wasn't even a thought for the first 6, 7, 8 years of oh, maybe I should or shouldn't do this. And then all of a sudden it was, and then really having to refine, to your point, making sure it would not have been possible without systems and processes, not only expansion, but then the exit opportunity. And I have a doc that hired me just solely for that, because he's just running controlled chaos. He really doesn't have a system. He's succeeding on some levels, but he wants to sell in a couple of years. I'm like, bro, you gotta have something that's transferable, that somebody's got a playbook they can open up and know how to run this machine without you in the formula. And so, it's the majority of that time. And still, even when I did 2 and 3, there's always things that came up, and then, oh shoot, I hadn't experienced that yet. Well, now I better create a process for that thing. I think as doctors, we think we got this, we can just practice. But if you truly want to have a quote unquote business, you got to have some systems and process. Everything from not only how you're doing your things, your doctoring, but who opens the mail? What day is it open the mail? What day are they doing the deposits? Who are they giving the report to? What day? All of the stuff that's involved.
Who unlocks the door? How we, I had a system where one of our brick and mortar clinics that I had, where when someone walks in the door, you should know in the calendar that it's Paul, and you're going to stand up.
Yep.
Smile.
My name.
Hey, Paul, right? Yeah, cool. Come on back. Know all those things. And so people would say, hey, isn't that a little meticulous, Adam? Absolutely not. All right. We're striving for excellence, knowing that sometimes we're going to fall short. If you're striving for good, dude, you're dead. Yeah. Right.
We would train our team. We would have group team trainings, and I would make them answer the phone, pretend they're answering the phone for a client, and making sure they're smiling and their energy was high, because that's transferable through the other line when that person's
100%.
like, oh, Yeah. So we would do all those little micro things for
So
sure.
oftentimes, and I think you and I both work with docs and practices and stuff like that. And so some of that stuff I'll come in and do because they might come to me and say, hey, I need to get more traffic. And I'm like, well, let's see where we're driving traffic first. And I'm not talking about your website. I'm talking about your culture. I'm talking about your front line and having an experience and finding out that, the reason that, oh man, I can never hire good people to do that. Well, maybe it's because the way you've created the culture, right?
Yeah, right.
You talk about
Or not.
are you having team meetings where you're having people role play call it? No, that's stupid. I don't know, because I know somebody, Dr.
Yeah, right.
who's crushing it, and that's what he does. So it's like there's those kind of things. Are we willing to do that work? And eventually the work isn't that hard. It's just maybe new and uncomfortable in the beginning until it becomes part of the process, part of the routine. And then it also helps weed out people who aren't engaged in the culture, right? Like people that
100%.
want to do the things that we do and believe in because we want to have the highest level of service and excellence. They leave.
Yeah.
Because they can't handle the pressure, which is good.
And culture, I teach and trained my team that the culture is driving your atmosphere, and an atmosphere is what keeps your business and you alive, right? It gives you your air, your oxygen, the things that you need. And so that culture is going to drive that. And so you got to have the right people in the bus, and the training will expose those that are unwilling to serve at that high level, like you said, and it'll quote unquote weed them out.
100%. And so was there at what point in owning the practices did you stop putting hands on people?
Yeah, it was probably, man, I pulled way back. It was probably year 15-ish, after we got the others, and I just couldn't for limitations of time and matter, right? I had to shift to different roles. So I still always was involved, but just a couple shifts a week.
Was there like that psychological wrestling?
It's terrible. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was another God moment, because it was the ego, right? Like, oh, these are my people. I can take the best care of them. Competitive CrossFitter 2015. So I tell you exactly what it was. It was March of 2015 doing the CrossFit Opens, and I had a complete quad rupture, superior quad rupture. And he's like, hey, dummy, you've been asking. Now you can't adjust people. So figure it out. Right. I'm like, all right. I asked I wasn't listening very well, but I got the answer.
I love that, because God will get your attention. And my prayer is always like, hey, God, just gently.
Yeah, right. I'm listening.
I usually, I used to drink alcohol pretty regularly and probably to a fault. And I quit drinking about 8.5 years ago. But I use the analogy to some folks that I have helped coach. I've helped hundreds of people quit alcohol just because to help them realize they had a bad relationship with it. But the analogy I use for that is like, look, if you have a bad relationship with alcohol, your spouse might say something to you. And then like maybe your friends say something to you. And then it's going to be the sirens behind your car that's going to say something. Like, when are you going to, at what point, like, what do you want God to do? Do you want him to whisper and gently nudge you? Or do you want to whack you over the head, right? And so like, it's interesting because there's a part of humility and surrender that's required in everything we do all day, even as leaders and coaches and things like that, right? Like we have to be, because I'm not always right. I don't always have the best path, and my perspective could be off, right? So I got to check myself in some of those things. So 2015, your quad, you can't adjust people anymore. And so how did that change? A couple things. I mean, that wrecks you. I just know if I'm physically out of the game, because we get a lot of our fulfillment and satisfaction from the physical training side of things.
Yeah.
What happened then?
Man, it was tough. I went through some internal struggles, right? Like just the monkey between the ears. And then I found a way. I wouldn't be denied that I got a video of me with my rower at home with my leg on a skateboard. On the rower, pushing with one leg. So I found a way, but it just obviously helped me grow and mature as a business owner, as a man, as a dad, husband, like all of the things that come from that kind of experience. And it exposed, like, I had done a good job with our systems and process, because the practices didn't miss a beat without me.
Yeah.
And so then it gave me this confidence and certainty, like, okay, we can do this. I have created the right systems. They are reproducible. I can just get the reports and manage and pull levers where levers need to be pulled based on the weaknesses during that specific period of time. And so, it shifted in uncomfortable confidence, I guess, is what it helped.
I had a similar situation. Thankfully, it wasn't a quad tear, but it was when COVID happened, right? So we had on our platform about 150 physicians. We were taking care of their health because they don't teach them hormone optimization, stuff like that in medical school. A few of them, and it ended up being a lot of them over time, started reaching out to me. They're like, hey man, my clinic's closed. Like, how do I see my patients that want to come in? Like, you're the telemedicine guy. Can you help me? And everything from podiatrist to physiatry to orthopedic, like a whole variety of people again, it's somewhat called a God moment where I was like, wanted to see if I could help. I had the story in my head that I didn't have the time, but the reality is that I just didn't step away, and I could. So what I was able to do at that time is that the guy that was kind of my operations manager and stuff, I was like, hey, I need to start, I want to help these docs, right? Like, I'm going to see if I can do it. Can you kind of help take over what I was doing? And he was doing better than I could. Right. So and I've seen this with some of the docs I coach of like bringing in mid-levels, and they're like, oh, they can't do as much. I'm like, like, dude, you're stretched. You're tired as heck every day. You're spending less time with patients. Let's bring this person in and see. And all of a sudden satisfactory scores up and all these kind of things. But what happened is that, to your point, like I realized I did create a really good system and process to the point it didn't need me anymore. Yeah. Right. I went from working 30 hours a week on a business that I didn't have to work 30 hours a business at. I just was. And then I pivoted into the consulting side, in 2020. And that's where I really started diving into the business side of other doctors, of their business, and realizing like the things that you and I have learned along the way that so many, majority obviously, don't know these things. They don't understand the systems and processes, whether it's driving traffic and, ads and scheduling and funnels and all this stuff that we put in and teach systems, processes to people, all these things. And then coming into because I didn't know that at that time. Seriously, I was so green because I just was like a scrappy entrepreneur that figured it out. I just assumed all these doctors who were super smart, went to school forever. Like I thought they knew it all, and they didn't. And I was like, wait a minute, these guys don't know this stuff. I knew they didn't know their health because that's what I've been taking care of. I didn't know they didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know they didn't know this stuff in the business side, and that's what really opened up for me in the consulting side. So a whole, the biggest part of how I spend my time today was opened up because I was willing to there was a calling, someone else needed my help. And I didn't know I put my business in the right position to be able to walk away from it to do that. But I was, which is pretty cool.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
So from that pivot and your ability to kind of see that in your business, do you already have these other practices now? How many?
I had the two when I did the quad. And that just gave me the confidence, like, all right, this is good. Let's go put some gas on the fire and fulfill the vision.
Yeah, because the reality is when you're working on the business and scaling the business, it's not physical work. So I'm sure that you physically being out of what you were doing from an adjustment standpoint forced you mentally to spend a little bit more time into what's possible, what I could do, like the mind, like you said, there's the monkey between the two ears, but sometimes we can control that monkey to do some cool stuff, right? Other times, if the monkey's just running wild.
Right. Yeah.
And so then you start creating these other practices. And so how long did you have all these practices before you exited, and how did that come about?
So the exit was, again, an alignment thing. I was approached by them, wasn't even thinking of doing it. It's pretty uncommon in our space, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's starting to become a little bit more common. Even doing multiples, for that matter, was, I had numerous colleagues and friends like, bro, what do you, like, it's hard enough to manage one. How are you managing all those? I'm like, well, it's really not any harder. You just haven't made the time to do the heavy lift up front to figure out the processes,
The perspective change, right?
Yeah.
If you believe you have to be at your office all day, every day, it's going to be impossible for you to understand how you could be at 4.
Yep. Yeah. So it was, again, mine was an 18-month process, not a 45-day process like you. So it was a little bit longer than expected and anticipated.
I was trying to sell though. So I wasn't trying, but I've always, my mindset in business is solve, scale, sell.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to grow the $100 million company. I like to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Doing my unique gift, but starting that from scratch and growing that thing is just like, I don't want 50 employees to babysit and HR.
Yeah.
It's entertaining to me. So I want to solve it, scale it, and then find that person. So I've always paid close attention to the metrics that I knew a lot of private equity and some of these other people might be looking for, so that I could just roll it right out to them. Right.
Beautiful. Yeah. I wasn't that intelligent. I just kept building.
Well, you said you weren't trying to, you weren't.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't.
I think you would have had it buttoned up pretty well.
Yeah. So it's was 18-month process, scaled, and we do other stuff. Got some commercial development. I have coffee shop. So we've expanded and had the ability to reach other avenues for impact. But yeah, so I can't remember exactly, but it was at least 6-7 years of having the multiples before I was approached by those folks. And again, only because of the systems and process we established was it a smooth, easy transition into exiting.
And then did they require you to be on board for a certain amount of time?
They did, yeah. I had a certain several months longer than ideal, but yeah, was on board to help them with transition. And then I got to learn too. Actually, I shouldn't approach that negatively. I helped them with over that period of time, and so I was doing practice evaluations and coming up with offers for them, between 2 different states and abroad. So it gave me some skills that I had surfacely understood, but not to the level or degree that I got to understand by doing that. So it helped me become better.
I think that's a part that people, if they're looking at an exit and they're like, oh, I got to stick around for a year or 2 years or whatever, like,
yeah,
maybe it's an earn out or something like that. But there's a part of that knowledge of like, hey, look at this private equity group. They're smarter than you.
Yeah.
They're doing bigger stuff than you.
Yep.
Like you're not as smart as them. So here's a great opportunity for them to pay you to learn some really cool stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So I've had that with a client of mine recently, did an 8-figure exit, and he was kind of like, I got to hang out on board. And I'm like, dude, learn this. Cause it was like, cause as you learn this process, when your non-compete's up, you can go not necessarily in the same sector, but some other sector.
Transferable, 100%.
The business. Yeah. Like it's all the same stuff that these guys look at. Right. And so that how to build the business now with the beginning with the end in mind, being more focused on what the exit looks like, how to put that little package together. You can know the people to call who might be looking at it. And that's how people get multiple exits by learning that too. So I think there's a lot of value in it. And I always suggest if you can stick around and learn, especially you get to go through the M&A process.
Which helped me a ton. Yeah. So I could see, I was literally trained to look through the eyes of the lens of what they're looking for.
Yeah. And that can allow you down the road, from an asset from why someone would hire you to want to work with you, right? As a coach, because you have these experiences and these resources and these tools that you've gone through. So it gives you more value, right? Versus if you didn't have that. And I think it also probably gives you some confidence and ideas if you want to go, as you go continue through the business side. Yeah, you can go do some other things.
2.0 or something.
Yeah. Knowing you're like, man, I never knew that. Like imagine, it's funny being in business 20 years or something and be like, I had no clue about that, or that was important or what that meant. So we're always learning.
100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great experience. So and again, to your point, like always have to be a student, no matter where you're at in your life. There's always something you can learn to help yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. So talk a little bit about what you do today. So how long ago was the exit?
20 end of 2019. So it's been 5.5 years. Yeah.
Okay. So what's changed? What's your focus? Let's talk a little bit about, how old are you now?
I'll be 54 Sunday, Father's Day.
Yeah, and you look great. You look like you're like early 40s, if I'm being honest.
Thank you.
Keep it up. But you live in that healthy life, dude.
Right? Gotta.
What are you doing now at 54? You have kids, right?
Yep. I got a 25-year-old son who's 90% of the way through chiropractic school. So he's gonna
that's cool.
Next generation. Yeah. And then I got my daughter just turned 23 last week, and she's married. My son's getting married. Yeah. So adult children. Yeah. So
but it's a cool season.
It's a great season. It's an amazing season.
And then how cool, like the value you can give, like especially your son going into chiropractic, like is he going to start his own practice and do that? Yeah. So like, dude, think of what dad can help him do from, just a path standpoint, like how rewarding that's. That's awesome. Like my son
have to do the work, but I can give him some.
100%. My son's entrepreneurial and I'm happy to help him. He's 17 and my daughter's 12 and I think she wants to be a veterinarian, but I'm like, hey, let's go to school, do your thing. Like,
build it.
Help you start a practice.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to work it. So that's the other gift, right? I think as people, especially even younger people might be listening to this, is like, man, learn as much as you can, like do all this stuff, because at the end of the day, it's not just for you.
Yep.
It's for who else you might be called to serve. Right. And in your case, even just our kids,
right?
Who doesn't want to help set their kids up for success? You said they have to do the work. I'm not going to do it for them. But you also coach and lead other men, right?
Yeah. Chiropractors and men. Yeah. So helping again, I think every health practitioner service provider, whatever you want to call it, should be successful, right? They're helping people, they're saving lives, they're helping them experience life to a higher level, higher degree, whatever you want to say it. And so again, but most of them, like we've had, talked about already, that most of them do not have a system or process at all, do not understand scalability. They look at the bank account and they see that there's money in the bank account. They think that they're doing well when they don't know their margins at all, have no idea what a KPI is.
Yep.
And so really helping them refine, and a lot of my focus is starting with the person in the mirror. Like when we work on ourselves personally, we get our foundations dialed. We're again, personal development junkie. I'm always working on myself, and I'm avid, firm believer that our mindset drives all of our outcomes. And so putting patterns and rhythms and systems and process in place for you personally to constantly be forging a stronger mindset, because it's not if, it's just when friction is going to happen, those moment of impacts. And the more prepared you are up front, the less those are going to cause chaos in your life. And so really working on the person first. And then once we've gotten that dialed, then again, helping them with the systems and processes and expansion across their platform. So
yeah, because our power comes from ourselves. And I think too often it's neglected that your greatest asset is you. Right? It's not your business. It's not your house. It's not your car. It's not your bank account. It's you, because you have the opportunity every day to kind of control some of those things by your ability to grow. And I love that you said mindsets where you start. I kind of have I call it like these 4 pillars of like self recreation. The first one's mindset. The second is mastery, which is self mastery. The third is marketing, right? Which some people are like, wait a minute. And then the fourth is machine. And people are like, wait a minute, what machine? And so the machine represents the business, right? But and you've experienced this, I want your business to be a machine, right?
Yeah.
You created, you were a cog in the machine, but then you became the machine, right?
Yeah.
What was harder, working every single day in the practice, touching every client versus 5 clinics? Psychologically, you might have, but our capacity to manage stress mentally is constantly has to be expanded so we can grow, right?
Absolutely.
But the physical side of it, and you're being physically in a certain location, you don't have a machine, you have a job.
Yeah, you got a job. You just over broke. You have a job.
Yeah. And so a lot, most people, I think you probably can relate to this. They want more money, right? Like not a lot of people are saying, hey, Adam, I need to just work on who I am. I would love more of that, but it takes some time to let them see the gaps. So that's where the machine side starts. And then marketing too is like building your personal brand, whatever it might be, especially in the medical space. Like a lot of docs are like, well, I don't really do that internet thing, or I don't really do that social media thing. I'm like, you're losing.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Imagine if you could fill your practice making boatloads of money, just talking about all the stuff you
already know.
Right. You already show your value, and you never have to sell anything. And so like for me with my telemedicine company, for example, I never marketed. I never did Facebook ads. We never did anything. It was just my personal brand that drove traffic, and also fulfilling a lot of taking care of people, and they refer people over. Right. So like that's a part of marketing too. So teaching marketing and the self-mastery and the mindset, but realizing any problem that we have after mindset or mastery or marketing usually will fall back into one of these categories where mindset is the foundation, right? So I love that we started with that, because I don't know why. I love, you and I are both, like you said, self-development junkies.
Yeah.
Like we're on the same wavelength. We see it. I think we approach most things with humble hearts, curious to learn, want to find where the weaknesses are. I don't want praise and a clapping for my successes. I want you to point out my weaknesses. Most people aren't wired that way. Yeah. And so I think for me, and maybe you're similar to this, is I want to help them get a win. And so that's why sometimes if it's coming into their business, their practice or something like that, helping them get a financial win, of helping them kind of break a frame that they thought like, well, I can't really do this, or this is and then like showing them like, oh yeah, no, there's an extra 20% a month we can add. And they're like, oh, whoa, I could do that. And it gives them confidence.
Yep. Shifts that mindset a little bit.
Yeah. Permission to come back into, hey, let's talk about what was inside your head that didn't allow you to see that, right? Yeah. Didn't allow you to see that. So I can kind of wrestle with them a little bit after I've helped them win on the financial side of it. Tell me a little bit more of your approach with the mindset. Like, do you find struggle with people wanting to go mindset first?
I do, because most of them, again, they want to make more money, but they haven't had the realization that they are their limiting capacity. Like the thing that's, like you said, what's running on between their ears is what's blocking them from growth. Because all of them we all know mostly what to do, right? But it's really them building in the habits to do the things that we know we need to do to get to where we want to go. And that's all mindset. It's because embracing the suck, doing the work. And so I get most of them, if they'll allow me to start a really rigid morning routine.
Yep.
That's I call it their SEP, spiritual, emotional, physical training, where you're really getting the mind right, seeing the day before the day. Everything happens twice in the world, right? It happens first as a thought, then in reality. And so making sure that they're course correcting our negative thoughts and visualizing and seeing the things that they want to attract in their life. And then doing, again, I believe my experience, and I believe that physical discipline builds all other disciplines. And so really stretching yourself physically in some capacity every day. And that's just going to forge that mindset to allow you to adapt and accept hard things as normal. And that's really what's going to give you that edge to push through and expand and grow, not only personally, but professionally.
Yeah, when you think of it, even from like a faith standpoint of like, we're talking about the flesh and then we talk about the spirit, right? And our mindset being a bit more of the spirit, but our flesh, like when you can master your flesh and you can train your flesh,
Yep.
your mind sees way more possibilities of what's possible, because no longer are you kind of a slave to the flesh, right? If you want to sleep in. And it's fun. I love that you mentioned morning routine. Like I don't understand how people can't have a more, and I get it, because some people, I spent a lot of my life without it, but I was losing versus, and I kind of say, if your day starts with you, an alarm going off and you fly out of bed and you're like barely, heart racing to run out the door,
right?
Thing, dude, you're losing. You're already playing in a deficit. Behind. Versus, like my day starts at, I get up at 5:30, but I don't start talking to people until like 8 a.m. I have a morning routine. I wake up, I pray before I leave my bed, set intention, all that stuff. I want to get in this almost silly state of gratitude. I go do morning mobility work, right? Like go doing some stretching. I'll walk on my treadmill, and I actually read the Bible. I call it my Bible mile. And
that's awesome.
I'll do a mile while I read the Bible, just walking, right? Warm up, nothing intense. And then I do infrared sauna. And most days I've been slacking lately, if I'm being honest, to do my cold plunge. And then I slowly get ready too. Like I'm getting ready. I'm not racing. I'm just moving.
Yeah.
The other part is I want to move slow enough so that I'm connected to my mind and my thoughts, because that morning time, like, dude, that's when the best downloads come.
Yeah.
100%. If you're racing and you're in a deficit, you're dead, dude. You're not going to hear all that stuff that we want to hear. Tell me about your morning routine.
Yeah, man. So mine's very similar. So again, the steps. So get up, coffee first, own a coffee shop, got to have my coffee, right? So Bible time, whether it's Bible time. And then I try and teach my people not to get hung up on making it an event. So whether that's one scripture or 30 minutes of it, like based on the day. And I found that if people make it an event, then when some life's going to happen, right? Kid's sick, you wake up not feeling well, you skip it, they fall out of rhythm. Yep. And so I do practice the same thing myself. So whether it's, so Bible, and then I journal.
But I like that you're saying, like, there's not rigid rules. It's just like, get into it. Like, look, sometimes I might read the Bible for 2 miles.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And sometimes I might read some profound scripture, and I'm like in ChatGPT and I'm in Google, and I'm like, because something just popped, just want to know more, right? There's no rules. It's just really like get into it, not necessarily in the flesh, just get into it, but in the heart. Like put your heart into it, even on the days you don't feel it. And so I think that's part of that connection to it too.
Yeah. So then whatever I get, again, I think none of us spend enough time thinking. So I'll kind of process what I read, whether again, a proverb, a chapter, whatever, and then I'll journal what I took from that. And then I hit a personal development book, same thing, whether it's 2 pages or 10 pages, read, what did I get from that? Write out my goals, prayer, visualization, and then move into fitness, some form of fitness. And that
is that like go to the gym, like full workout, or?
Yeah. So either the gym or at home. I have a home gym as well, but both, and get after it.
That's awesome. And I love, one of the things I do a Bible study every Monday morning virtually, but one of the things that I found really helpful too, and this really, whether you're reading the Bible, this is where I kind of discovered it, but it can happen whether you're reading a self-development book, listening to a podcast, it's the structure of the 4 W's. So the first is, what's the word, or what am I listening to? What did I read? What am I receiving? Second is, what is the wisdom I'm extracting from that, right? I'm writing this down. And then third is, what is the work that I have to do based on the revelation I received, right? Maybe it's to my wife, or like whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what is the wealth? And I think oftentimes, and especially in the Christian world, we skip that. What is the wealth? What is my expectation of doing this, right? So if it could be write out a goals or whatever the work will be, I should also have an expectation attached to doing it. Not that I'm doing it just for the outcome of it, but we're doing these things to grow. We're doing these things, right? You don't have a morning routine because you're not expecting.
Because I love getting up early.
Yeah, no, not at all. Right. Need it. But I know that it puts me in power. I know that I'm going to grow. I know that I'm going to learn. I'm going to receive revelation. So like, what is the wealth, right? So word, wisdom, work, wealth. And that structure really helps. And it applies to people like, well, I don't read the Bible. I'm not a Christian. I'm like, cool. You listen to podcasts, you watch YouTube, you read books, do the same thing, write the same structure down. And the intentionality of that helps you extract really good value.
And you're spending time thinking, which is that where to your point, you mentioned a few minutes ago, is like most folks aren't preparing for their day. They're reacting to their day, and they didn't spend that time thinking. And that's when you do get those downloads. That's the winks or the whispers like, hey, you're preparing you for this. And so you have to spend time thinking. Otherwise you're going to, again, sympathetically run through the day without really acknowledging what's going on.
And it's like, man, as a society in general, we don't want to think. Because if we find some downtime to potentially think, we got to grab that phone and start scrolling, right? Yeah. And it's wild. So it's like catching myself, like, am I trying to avoid something? Like, so that's why in the morning, I won't get into my phone until like sometimes by the time I'm in my sauna, I might be in there and I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on. But other than that, I still need that, hour or so before, because at the end of the day, dude, nothing's burning down. Kids are home. Like no one needs me. I have no obligation to anybody at 6:30 or 7:00 in the morning. I don't, right, except myself. So, and that's the most important obligation, right? To do that. And so you help with morning routine and part of that, the physical side of, do you find that I know this for a fact but do you find that most people struggle to have that physical discipline for their beacon?
Yeah. The majority, which is unfortunate. Then they look at guys like yourself or me, like, well, dude, like you're lucky, right? Like you got good genes. Well, no, I just have been training since I was 13, and I probably have missed less than 2 or 3 days a week since I was 13. Like it's just become part of my DNA, and I'm here because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and that's the conversation with folks I work with that might be reluctant, right? They're listening to you like kind of reluctant to exercise, of like, there's a part in the process where you become a guy like you and I, where it's like, today's Monday, I'm going to go to the gym. I went for a walk or I did my morning routine. I could easily just write off, but no, I'm going to go to the gym later in the day, and I'm going to go do, it's Monday, so it's chest day, and I'm going to go do a chest workout.
Chest and buys earlier today.
So like, I'm not disappointed about doing it. I don't even have to put it on my calendar anymore. And that's why working out in the evenings more actually works better for me. But I know no matter what, I'm not going to do it. Now, here's what I might not spend the time to write out a content map. I might not, I might avoid the time of doing, I call it like the dark work, and that's some of the other stuff I do in the morning before I actually start talking to people, is like mapping out my next book or writing out content ideas that I'm going to shoot with my media guy, like all these kind of things where it's like that stuff that we'll get to later, like that could be the discipline that I have to schedule in my calendar. And that's the other thing. I'm sure you live and die by your calendar, as I do too. Like I have to, right?
Have to. Yeah.
My
that was your schedule gets done.
Emails, the to-do list. Like if the email's checked, I did it. If it's unchecked, it's something I still requires attention or something else. And my calendar is where I have to show up. Like, and off the top of my head, I literally don't know what I have to do after we're done with this podcast. I just know in like 13 minutes, I got to do it.
Yeah, check your calendar.
And even in my calendar, we'll have like the appointment, let's say like you and I, and then I have a second appointment that's for me only, that's like details, that I have my admin put stuff in there so that in 30 seconds, I can get a full refresher, know what I'm doing or what the conversation is about, whatever. Yeah. But this is stuff that gets refined over years.
Yep.
I can just hand to somebody who's never even conceptualized any of this is possible and radically change their life from an energy, from an organization standpoint, like almost overnight. Right. So it's wild to be able to do that. What are, tell me a little bit about like who your ideal client is, like who really is looking to reach out and work with you the most?
Yeah. I think one, dudes that need to refine their mindset, but if we're speaking of chiros, it's really the ones that are wanting to go next level and expand. That they're tired of being, as you spoke, the cog in the wheel. They're ready to bring on another doc, leverage out of their doc to create a little bit more freedom in their life, increase their revenues, and or looking to do multiples. Again, I think that's my wheelhouse in helping you establish the systems and process to be able to expand and do multiple things without burning yourself out. right? I had more freedom when I had those multiples than I had ever. And so it's, again, but it was only based around having the systems and process to mentor and lead and instruct and coach your team, to create that. So yeah, so folks that are looking to expand outside of themselves and leverage their practice the way it should be.
All of that. Two things. One, you had more freedom when you had more, right? Because some people who don't have
More brings more work.
yeah, they think I'm going to lose my freedom by having more things, right? But that's a perspective of someone that hasn't done it yet versus someone like yourself who has. And that you're right. I mean, if you do it right, the bigger you grow your company, the more freedom you're going to have, right? If you scale up properly and you're disciplined with the systems, processes, and things of that nature. And then I think the other part when where I think you and I, are very similar in a sense is you kind of have like the business version of you that's like, hey, I can come in, consult, help you build your business. But you also have the coaching, personal development side, which is like, hey, we can just focus. Mindset doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in not a chiro, you can be any guy that wants to have self-development, growth, but realizing here's the gift for guys like you and I to those that we serve versus just the consultant, right? Is like, I'm going to, at some point, we're going to have a conversation about your marriage, right?
Yep. I'm
We're
glad you
gonna have
brought
a
that up.
conversation
100%.
about your health, right? We're going to talk, where it's hilarious that some of the guys that I work with that have been with me the longest, we've already like blown out all the revenue, like business, whatever, dude. In the beginning, I told them like the business side will be the least thing we talk about in the future because we'll get that under so much control. Then it's going to be navigating potentially a marriage that you've neglected, time with kids, guilt, shame, some weird stuff in your past, whatever it might be. Like we're going to be working into that stuff.
Yeah.
And then what happens is it also unlocks more in the business opportunity.
Business growth. Yeah.
Right. And it's super wild. But I think, as people look to work with someone like you, who's a coach that's like, yeah, like he's got the business side of it. And if you're willing to also open yourself up to the personal development side of it, it's just a whole new world.
It's a game changer. Yeah. I've had a few docs that have actually hired me based on that first, which is really uncharacteristic of folks to bring you on. Like, hey, I want some work in this personal area because I see some struggles. There's some conflict and things I need to resolve, and working with them and quote unquote fixing that business. Then the business just blasted off.
And as a coach, that's exciting, right? If someone's hiring, they're like, hey, I want you to help me build some systems and processes. It's like, I know I can do it. When someone's like, hey, listen, man, like,
fix my marriage.
I need a mindset. Yeah. I need a mindset shift. Like I'm not being the best husband. I've let my health slip. Like you're like, ooh, this is someone really hungry to grow because, if you ask a crowd of people, like who wants to make more money? Like everybody's raising. Yeah. But if you're like, hey, who wants to work on being a better version of themselves? And they're like, I'm okay.
Good. Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. 100%.
But that's the lie that we all have, right? We all, like you and I, there's a better version of you and I right now that's waiting to be unlocked. But I think you and I are both hungry enough to explore.
And to your point, it's so rewarding and so fun to help them really discover that and then see the benefits of it, to see relationships or their health change. Like or relationships saved, more importantly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have wives that call me because they got my number through their husband. So like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I like this. And one of my conversations is with them is like, hey, listen, you see the king rising? Yeah. Okay. No more fool talk. But don't remind them of anything you ever did wrong. Like, because there's a part of that, right? Yeah. We want to facilitate some of that stuff with the spouse. My wife and I are actually starting a podcast soon called the 1% Marriage, where her and I are going to just basically to open up the conversation for basically to give other married couples listening permission to have the conversations that her and I are going to navigate. Cause they're, it's our marriage of, it's 18 years has been built on the ability to have tough conversations, and we're still growing, right? We're still
dude, we're saying we're coming up on 32, so it's amazing. We've been together since we were freshmen in high school. So like the whole journey. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. I know we're probably getting close to time. Share a little bit about with your wife. Is she kind of work in the business with you? Like how did that?
Yeah. So she, man, I'm only successful because of her, if I'm honest. She was, again, we've been together literally forever since she was 14. I was 15.
So
Yeah, she early in career, she had a career job. She taught and then went into corporate America for a few years until our son was born, and then we were able to have a position where she could just be mom, right? Take care, take care of our kids. And then as our kids got older and were in school more full time, she started helping with all the books and behind the scenes stuff with all the businesses, whether it's the practices or the properties or the now the coffee shop as well. And so she's the anchor. I'm the visionary, like let's do this, and she picks up all the pieces behind me and make sure that it works and functions at a high level. Yeah, so it's been, I couldn't have done any of it without her. So
that's beautiful.
good.
Well, that's awesome. And then, I mean, what a testament to of all that you've created, all that you've built with your wife alongside, 32 years of marriage. I'm sure everything's still great and on fire.
No.
And the ability for you to learn so much through that process of what you've had to learn, right? Because it's not all easy.
No.
Marriage, having a great marriage is probably the hardest thing out there, right?
Yeah, it's work, but most people don't work at it.
Yeah, but there's a momentum in it too, where it's like that it gets easier, right? It's like anything, and it's more fulfilling, right? And that's one of my favorite things is to see people that are, I'll say our age, we're in that later part of it. Like marriages are like we're like annoyingly in love and on fire and doing stuff together, date nights, and it's just because two people just really love each other and want to have the best versus, is it financial obligation, like keeping it together for the kids? Like, man, what a terrible way to live. But there's a lot of people doing that, and that can be unlocked to have the things that you and I are talking about through just doing some of that self-work.
And commit to each other, to your point, to the date nights. We just ran into one of our kids' friends' moms. It's like, I still remember you guys doing your date nights back when our son was like 4 or 5 years old. We'd like, nope, date night, we got to do it. Like
it's literally on the calendar every Thursday night. And if there's an exception, we'll like pivot and do Friday. But for the most part, every Thursday night is mom and dad only date. And our kids know. They'll be like, you guys going out or what? It's like 6 o'clock. You haven't gone out?
What are you doing here?
Yeah, they know.
You got to connect. That's one of the things I teach, the men that I work with, like my 3 C's, like connect, communicate, collaborate. You got to connect regularly. You got to communicate what's going on. What are you doing today? Here's what I'm doing today. Here's what happened in the office, whatever. And then collaborate on like, how we're going to resolve this thing. Okay, you're picking up junior football. I'm picking, whoever up over here. We're going to meet here. Like, just, you gotta communicate and collaborate.
100%. And then give grace too. Like, we're not always our best version of ourselves, right? So it's like, I could come out of a intense phone call and leave my office. My wife is on cloud 9 and she's going to be like, hey babe. And I'm like, what? Right. And it's like, and for her to know, like, it ain't me. It's like, learning those things, or vice versa, where I might be like, I want to go in there and run my hands all over, and she's in the middle of something together, a deadline, right? And I can't be like, oh, she doesn't love me. That I call it the little entitled. Men have issues about being entitled. Women sometimes it's about rules, right? Or expectations. And so that's awesome. I'm glad we got a chance to hit on the marriage side.
Beautiful.
And, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for doing the work that you do. I think, just leading by example and being a strong man of God, leading his family, building businesses, leading other men, like that is so awesome. So we're so grateful to have you on here.
No, thanks for having me on, brother.
Dr. Paul.
It's great to connect.
What can you share where we'll put all this stuff in the show notes, but where can people follow you? And
I think easiest probably is my Instagram at Dr. Paul Reed Official. That's how you and I, we connected through Brandon. It's at Dr. Paul Reed Official. I think it's the easiest way for folks to find me, where I'm most active.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hope people come check you out. And if they're interested, to just DM you, whatever.
Yeah, just DM me.
We'll have a conversation.
I'm pretty mellow.
Check out their practice. I know we have a lot of chiropractors that listen to this podcast. So hopefully there's more people who can help and serve, that's the most fulfilling thing out
Absolutely.
there. I know you agree with that.
Yeah,
we thank everybody for tuning in to the 1% podcast. I'm Adam Lamb, your host with Dr. Paul Reed. Thank you for being our guest. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the 1% Doctor. Please be sure to subscribe to the show where you're able to consume more podcasts, get more value, and learn more about doctors potentially just like you. Please tell a friend, review the show, and we'll see you in the next episode.